Top Rank's Bob Arum claims that a Pacquiao fight with Keith Thurman and other top talents would produce mediocre pay-per-view buys. And they might match him with Konstantin Ponomarev. Stay tuned. Boxing Ego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. 1. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest boxing. You want to become part of the gang, notification gang, hit that bell icon. Set up the Patreon account. If you guys feel like supporting the movement, definitely support. Now, 2017 has been great, but we have had a couple of hiccups, and I got to talk about this. Some people are going to get mad, but because it's Pacquiao, but it's crazy. I have to speak on it. Now, they're promoting the fight in Brisbane. Not too many people are really pumped for this fight. Maybe Australians, because they get an opportunity to see one of their own countrymen battle a legend. I think it'll do good numbers in terms of tickets because, again, Pacquiao, he doesn't fight in Australia often. So this is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity before his career is over. The stadium holds like 55,000 if I'm not mistaken. But according to ESPN, Bob Arum says one guy that we could match Manny Pacquiao up with is Konstantin Ponomarev. He's a very tough kid. He's undefeated and he's a good fighter. But there could be others, right? He also talked about the numbers if allegedly Pacquiao were to fight, it sounds like an Al Heyman fighter. Bob Arum says Manny versus Keith Thurman or the other guys in the division, while they would be good fights and they are good fighters, they will do mediocre numbers on pay-per-view. Maybe 300,000 or 400,000 buys. Look at the fight we just did with Manny and Jesse Vargas. It did nothing on pay-per-view. Maybe 250,000 buys. Now, I was going to come back as Ego Valley, but this is too easy. Ego Valley is not even, like, I'm going to give Ego Valley a break. It's too easy to break down. Now, I told you in January, tell the truth. Tell the truth. This was not going to be a good year for a lot of you casuals because no longer are we in the time where you could just say something in boxing and it would just stick and people just have to believe it. Seeing is believing. Showing and proving is believing. You know what I mean? And ESPN, if Bob Arum is saying that we might have Pacquiao come back if he gets past Jeff Horn and doesn't sustain any injuries, knock on wood, anything like that, and we might match him with Konstantin Ponomarev, yet you're saying Keith Thurman or the other guys, which a lot of the top talents are with Al Heyman, right? You're saying that they would do low numbers, mediocre numbers, 400,000 numbers. And I don't even think that's true. Where are you getting this math from? The fight with Jesse Vargas did, let's say 350,000. I don't remember the exact number, but it wasn't terrible. The Bradley 3 fight did about 425,000. A lot of people weren't checking for that. Bradley has minimal power at 147, even though he stopped Brandon Rios. He has minimal power. He had a new trainer, and we had already seen that saga 2 other times before the 3rd fight. And they did in the area of 300 to, let's say, 450,000 in those 2 fights. So in between that, what leads you to believe that a Keith Thurman fight, an Al Heyman fighter with the top rank fighter, would only do 400,000 or 300,000 buys? Where are you getting that? Keith Thurman on network TV, when he fought against Sean Porter, did like 4 million or 5 million or whatever it was. Then he came back and fought with Danny Garcia and did great numbers. Now, I understand free TV versus pay-per-view is one thing, but that, like, where are you getting the numbers? Keith Thurman has got a lot of exposure in his last 2 fights. Danny Garcia on CBS, and then also the free TV Premier Boxing Champs with Sean Porter, which were both good fights. Obviously, the Porter fight with Thurman was more intense and more rugged back and forth, but that's a lot of exposure. So why if Jesse Vargas, how can you even compare Jesse Vargas to that? When Jesse Vargas, I just interviewed him. Shout out to Jesse Vargas. This is no shade to him, but he's been around for a while, and he was with the Mayweather situation, then Top Rank and stuff like that, but he wasn't really a big well-known commodity aside from boxing fans. I'm talking about like casuals. They probably wouldn't have known that because you couldn't just see him on network TV. You can't just be flipping through the channels. But there's a chance you've been flipping through the channels and you're like, hey, I seen that guy, that the light-skinned dude with braids. I think he fought Robert Guerrero on free TV. I think he fought Danny Garcia, that other guy, or Sean Porter. They may not know the names, but Keith Thurman has been on network TV multiple times. He was been on HBO when Heyman had his fighters on HBO. He's been on Showtime. So it is what it is. So I don't even understand where the math is coming from. Once again, it sounds like another excuse to not fight the top level guys. You don't want to work with Al Heyman, even though Terrence Crawford, the guys that Crawford dogged the last 2 fights, John Molina Jr. and also Felix Diaz, they're Al Heyman advised. But now, when it comes to these Al Heyman fighters, there's a lot of great fights. Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Errol Spence Jr., even Broner or Mikey Garcia. And now you're basically making it sound like the numbers would be mediocre. Now, here's my last point regarding this whole situation is, if that's your real opinion, that Keith Thurman and Pacquiao, which I don't believe, would only do 300, 400,000 or low pay-per-view buys, because Keith Thurman is a legit threat. He has 2 belts. He has mainstream appeal. He's going to talk about intellectually about breaking down the fights. If you've ever seen the Keith Thurman media day or interview, he breaks down boxing. So he has the look, he has the personality. I remember when he was on they did Corner to Corner, one of those shows, and he was doing those punches showing how Danny Garcia throws like a wide hook, stuff like that. It would make for exciting TV. He called out Pacquiao. So I don't even believe that it would do that little in terms of pay-per-view buys. I mean, fights that there's a legitimate threat usually do better. That's how the game works. If it's perceived as a threat, like Canelo Golovkin, I think will do good numbers because he is perceived to be a threat to Golovkin, vice versa. Golovkin can hurt Canelo, and we haven't seen that, so people are going to tune in, hey, what's going to happen, right? But hypothetically, using Arum's logic and playing devil's advocate, even if you believe that, then explain Konstantin Ponomarev. So this is how the casual fan always gets trapped in different lies and different when they try to take these stances. Because, okay, fine, Keith Thurman and Pacquiao, for whatever reason, you're under the impression that Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, all these other guys would do low, mediocre pay-per-view buys. Then why would you put him in with Konstantin Ponomarev, who's less known than Broner, less known than Mikey Garcia, less known than Keith Thurman, less known than Sean Porter, less known than Errol Spence, right? And speaking of Errol Spence, Abel Sanchez, who trains Konstantin Ponomarev, and I met the kid, he's cool, he's undefeated, but Abel Sanchez trains him, and they were supposed to fight. It wasn't supposed to be Leonard Bundu. You got to know your boxing. It was supposed to be Errol Spence Jr. versus Konstantin Ponomarev in an eliminator, but Abel Sanchez, and they made a team decision to pull the plug and not face Errol Spence Jr. They said he was injured or something, and then even when the fight with Bundu had to later be rescheduled, they still didn't fight him, right? So if he wasn't ready for, Abel said this, you guys can ask him if you ever interview him or see him, he said that it wasn't the right time for it, basically. And he didn't want to put Ponomarev in there. Plus he had an injury or whatever the situation is. So he avoided the fight for whatever reason. That's their option. If you don't want to partake in an eliminator, that's cool. I have no beef with that. But if he wasn't ready for Errol Spence, how is he ready for another southpaw with more experience, power, and a better resume than Errol Spence? No shade to Errol Spence, but Pacquiao's been doing it longer. And he's currently a champion. So I'm not buying what Bob Arum is saying, and it's laughable. And like I said, tell the truth. Tell the truth. A lot of you fans who try to hide behind these scapegoats of why Vasyl Lomachenko shouldn't even pay attention to Rigondeaux and why Pacquiao as a champion, oh, he's done everything. If he fights Jeff Horn and then Konstantin Ponomarev, then you already know what time it is. You already know what time it is, because the division's too stacked. Why are you even checking for Konstantin Ponomarev when you got a kid like Errol Spence Jr. who just went to the UK? He just went to the UK to fight Kell Brook, you know what I mean, who's bigger than Pacquiao in terms of physical size and is strong and everything. So you can't just take Errol Spence out of the equation and assume that, let's say Top Rank wants to stage a Pacquiao fight in the Philippines. That motherfucker Errol Spence might go to the Philippines for that. He just went to the UK. What's the difference? Their time zones are closer than the American time zones. So you can't just take him out of the equation and just assume that Errol Spence wouldn't travel to go fight Pacquiao in the Philippines. He might not care. He traveled for the Olympics. Or Keith Thurman. You can't just not negotiate with them and just assume because you want to stage the fight in the Philippines that these guys wouldn't go. They might think they can knock him out in the Philippines. Keith Thurman right now, go to his Instagram, he's in like Nepal or somewhere. You know what I mean? He might go to the Philippines. He wants a vacation. You know what I mean? He might train in the Philippines. Who knows? But to me, once again, this is Bob Arum and Top Rank trying to keep in-house fights, even if they don't make sense, trying to keep everything in-house, because either way, you win in the sense of it's your fighter. If Konstantin Ponomarev beats Pacquiao via a split decision, that's your fighter. So you have him. But this is my thing. There's another person with Top Rank who's far more proven and also undefeated. His name is Terrence Crawford. So if you want to keep it in-house, keep it in-house with him. Why don't you fight Terrence Crawford? He called out Pacquiao. He said he would fight Pacquiao. He's just impressing, you know what I mean? Destroy Felix Diaz, an Al Heyman fighter. So even if you don't want to fight, the walls are closing in, I'm telling you. Even if you don't want to fight an Al Heyman fighter, you got a great Top Rank fighter that can easily be made, who's on record. I never even heard Konstantin Ponomarev say he wanted to fight Pacquiao. I've heard Terrence Crawford said he'll fight him. He said, I'm not going to slow my career or sit around chasing him, but I'll fight him. I'm telling you guys, the walls are closing in. People made exceptions for Jeff Horn and, oh, this needs to happen, Pacquiao could do, but nobody's trying to see no farewell tour with the champion. And I told you guys, you want to relieve the pressure and stop the bleeding, Pacquiao should get rid of that belt. Then he could do whatever he wants. If he wants to fight Konstantin Ponomarev, like Martin said in Bad Boys, good luck. You know what I mean? Good luck with the numbers and stuff, because that's not going to do well. But I mean, boxing fans aren't having it anymore, where the public is intentionally deceived, just like Mayweather Pacquiao. Everyone painted it out to be like Floyd was the bad guy and he just really didn't want to fight. He said, I want to fight on an even playing field, which is definitely respectable. Nobody should be on an uneven playing field. And he said, I want a drug test. So if Team Pacquiao, instead of saying, oh, he's not the commission, we don't want it, then the fight could have happened probably sooner. But you got to start proving what you say. And I could prove everything. I could show you Keith Thurman's numbers on network TV that lead me to believe that it doesn't coincide with Bob Arum's number, that just because Jesse Vargas and Pacquiao did a certain number, that's what Keith Thurman would do. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy. Like, it's almost like laughable to see how the promoters still try to throw little bait out and hopefully it sticks, but it's not working like that. 2017 has been phenomenal. Again, if Pacquiao just wants to have a farewell tour of okay competition, and I'm not even saying like it's not Jeff Horn, Konstantin Ponomarev, they could be very good, very solid. The bottom line is they haven't proven it on the grand stage. Like, name Konstantin Ponomarev's last 3 opponents. I can name Broner's last 3 opponents. I can name Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter's last 3 opponents, but I cannot, and I'm not being facetious, name Konstantin Ponomarev's last 3 opponents or Jeff Horn. So, you know what I mean? If Pacquiao wants to be a senator and he doesn't really have time, drop the belt. Drop that WBO belt and let somebody unify who wants to unify. But as far as Arum throwing it out there that Manny versus Thurman or the other guys in the division, they're good fights and they're good fighters, that's how you know it's a lie. He says while they would be good fights and they are good fighters, it'll do mediocre numbers on pay-per-view. What makes you believe that? Based on what? You know what I mean? There's nothing to substantiate that. You don't want to make it because you don't want your cash cow to potentially get knocked out and or beaten, and then that fighter goes back to premier boxing champs. Call it what it is. Call a spade, but you can't say that top level guys who has 2 belts and a unification like Keith Thurman, power, jumps in just like Pacquiao, has an exciting style. He's one time and he's charismatic. You can't say that's going to do minimal numbers, but then you're talking about Konstantin Ponomarev. You know what I mean? So a lot of you guys that try to not be truthful, you back yourself into a corner, because even if we use your logic, it still doesn't make sense. Okay, Thurman will do shitty numbers with Pacquiao. Then why would you put him in there with someone who's even lesser known than Thurman? It's too easy. So all that stuff like Bob Arum's talking about, he has to go back to the drawing board with that, because people aren't going to just buy that. If you want an in-house fight, there's a great ready-made fight that Bob Arum has been talking about with Terrence Crawford. People would probably like to see that a lot more than Konstantin Ponomarev. And again, it's not about dogging Ponomarev or Jeff Horn. I told you, I met Ponomarev. He was cool. He was very friendly. But we got to be real here. You know what I mean? This is real boxing talk. And it just these fights don't make sense. What does it do for Pacquiao? I mean, I understand he's already a legend and guaranteed Hall of Famer, but really, Jeff Horn, and then you get past him, Konstantin Ponomarev, who openly wasn't ready for Errol Spence. So why would that do great pay-per-view numbers when he felt he wasn't ready for Errol Spence? How's he going to be ready for Pacquiao? Crazy. These guys have to prove themselves. Like even Danny Garcia losing to Keith Thurman, he didn't get knocked out. He didn't get knocked down. That proves more in that itself. In fighting Lucas Matisse, those two fights have proven more than Ponomarev or Jeff Horn's whole career, because those were top-level guys in top-level divisions, 140 and 147. Name someone like that Ponomarev has even faced, a Keith Thurman or Lucas Matisse, who's mowing guys down at 140. I'm telling you, man, tell the truth. Tell the truth. It's getting too easy. Patreon, donate, just hit the like button. It doesn't matter. All that stuff. We working. But boxing fans aren't having it no more. You can't just throw out that little bait and people just cling to it. You got to start backing it up. Let me know what you think. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.